The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation released their summer market outlook, so now let's take a look at what it forecasts for the Toronto market and whether or not the predictions are going to be accurate coming right up. Hey guys, welcome back and happy Canada Day. If we're meeting for the first time, my name is Fred and I'm posting new videos here on YouTube every single week, bringing you the best real estate tips and market updates. So if you're new here, consider subscribing to my channel, and now let's talk about this market outlook. Cmhc is the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. They help Canadians with affordable housing options by providing mortgage insurance to mortgage lenders, which allows them to provide loans to buyers who might otherwise be at risk of defaulting. And I talk more about Cmhc and the spring market outlook in another video, which you can check out in the link up top, and I'll also leave the link in the description below. The report forecasted the housing market in 3 different categories, which were the number of new home construction starts, home sales, and prices. And in summary, they forecasted the Canadian housing market to go through a historic recession in 2020. And there was a lot of disagreement with their forecast, which brings us to their summer market outlook. It expands what they had to say in the previous report by providing further context at a deeper level of Canada's largest cities. So now let's first talk about new home construction in Toronto. In my latest weekly market update, I talked about the importance of new home construction and how it impacts the overall housing market. And CMHC forecasts a decline in 2020 for new homes built this year, which is already proving to be true, because we've seen sales come down by about 81% compared to the previous year for newly built and pre-construction homes across the GTA ever since COVID-19 hit. In fact, only 866 new homes sold about 1 month ago, new construction home sales Toronto has seen in the last 20 years. And the reasons why home construction slowed down this year? One reason is because of the disruptions of supply chain due to closures at borders and global lockdowns. We're currently about 6 months behind of where we expected to be this year with the number of new homes built. And with the city taking serious precautions before we moved into stage 2 of the reopening plan, we might see the construction of new homes to take even longer to catch up. And this unfortunately puts major delays on some workers in the housing construction industry from getting back to being employed. In fact, Canadian employment is still down 15% according to Stats Canada, and the decline with employment and income has lowered the demand for housing. But how does this apply to Toronto? We're starting to see market activity in Toronto that some people are comparing to spring of 2017, which was one of the hottest markets we've seen in recent years. And I will agree and say that the Toronto market is on fire right now, but we need to also consider where the current market is stepping out from, which is a market where housing inventory and sales were down by about 80%. Well, last year, sales of pre-construction homes were strong in 2019, with more than 80% of units that sold. And that additional housing inventory will definitely help with the speed of Toronto's housing market recovery compared to the rest of the province. In fact, there are currently 54,000 condominium units under construction in Toronto, and they'll eventually impact the resale market by increasing supply. But despite the amount of market activity that we're seeing right now, there are several factors that require careful consideration, since they might slow down the rate at which Toronto's real estate market recovers. One of the reasons is obviously the virus, which I don't think anyone can really provide an accurate response as to when it will be under control. We also don't know when we'll see a change to unemployment going into the right direction. So there's a high level of financial uncertainty that will likely continue to put people's plans on pause before they step back into the market and continue with their home search. And this brings up the third topic of the rental market, which we'll talk about shortly. But one thing I will say is that anyone who is looking to get into the market right now and make a purchase, and who is fortunate enough to be able to do so during these difficult times, can still potentially find a deal on their next home, depending of course on the market area and relative to the market prices we saw earlier this year. Because overall the average prices in Toronto are still down. And although buyer competition is increasing as weeks go by, we're still missing the element of immigration and foreign buyers who would normally play a huge role in making a highly active market. And it's because of these facts that CMHC forecasts home sales in the Greater Toronto Area will drop before the end of this year, before they start to recover in Q1 of 2021, with steady growth throughout 2022. And before we dive further into Toronto's forecasted home sales and rental market, give this video a thumbs up if you're gaining value and learning something new, and comment below if you think the market will recover this year or take longer to fully recover. It seems to me that the city is headed in the right direction, but leave a comment and tell me what what you think. Okay, so now let's take a look at home sales. CMHC predicts that home sales will not recover until Q1 of 2021. So what they're implying is that the Toronto market will show signs of strong recovery by sometime later this fall. And we're already starting to see signs of recovery throughout the city, with homes selling for more than market value as a result of buyers competing in multiple offers. In fact, I think this is market activity that we'll continue to see throughout the summer and in the fall as more and more buyers and sellers regain confidence in the real estate market. So I definitely agree with CMHC's prediction that the Toronto market will begin to see some recovery throughout the rest of this year. But early 2021 might see a slowdown in market activity since both sellers and buyers tend to slow down throughout the winter. And this is expected to last sometime in the spring, which usually sees a market pick up again. But of course, this is under the assumption that the virus will be under control by this time. And if we're also well into phase 3 of the reopening plan by that time, all workplaces will be back open for business, which will help alleviate some of the financial pressure around the city and also bring down the unemployment number. But also keep in mind that we live in a city where there's a high concentration of traditional office-based companies, and many of them have already transitioned to allow their employees to work from home, which is a work style that might carry on well after the virus has gone. And the forecast mentions that short-term job losses will occur primarily in the retail and hospitality industries, which typically employ lower paid workers, and based on their average income, these groups are more likely to rent than own. So this is the reason why CMHC forecasts that the home ownership market won't be as severely impacted compared to the rental market. And I have to agree because we've been seeing that home sales and sales volumes are both trending up, and home inventory has also been steadily rising over the past 10 weeks. But this is where I thought the forecast might have actually nailed it this time around. It says that average house prices will decline throughout the remainder of this year and into 2021. And this should be because of housing supply rising at an increasing rate for various reasons. And more inventory means more choices for buyers, which should help balance out prices before they begin to rise too quickly. We know that seller confidence is also back in the market. In fact, we're seeing a combined average of 770 freehold and condo homes listed per week, which is a number that exceeds the combined average we saw earlier this year. And for context, this average dropped to about 240 listings per week early on during the pandemic. Housing supply might also get an increase later this year if homeowners are forced to sell as mortgage deferral options and federal stimulus packages both begin to run out in the fall. And as both programs eventually come to an end, some property investors who rely on short or long-term rentals might also be forced to divest their properties if they're no longer generating a sufficient amount of income. In fact, some landlords across the province are likely in a situation where they can't afford their mortgages right now due to tenants who are not paying their rent. And this all came after Premier Doug Ford made this shocking announcement back in March.
Ontario will make sure that no one gets evicted. We stand by that, and we're going to make sure we take care of those people.
And now, if CMHC is correct with the correlation of short-term job losses and the rental market, then we might actually expect the rental market to loosen up. A key driver in Toronto's rental market is immigration, which has seen a reduction due to border and airport closures. And also the younger generation, as well as students who are completing post-secondary studies, might elect to stay and live with their parents just a little bit longer during a difficult job market. So these are two reasons why we might see an increase in vacancy rates and a decrease in prices in the rental market. But despite these facts, some areas are already experiencing multiple offers on rental properties. And I've already experienced some of the heat in the resale market competing in multiple offers, but I would also like to hear from you and all the other viewers on YouTube. Do you think it's going to climb back up faster than expected? Or do you think the market is going to crash? Comment down below because I'm really curious to know what other people think who are watching this video here on YouTube. And to stay in touch, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know whenever a new video is out. And as always, thank you for tuning in and always taking the time to watch my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.